What is up, Knicks fans? Welcome back to yet another episode of Fireside Knicks with your hosts, Dylan and Davin. Davin is now back finally after a week from Thanksgiving break, so it's good to have him back on here. And today we're going to talk about really what the Knicks have been doing over the past few weeks, because now it seems like they're finally playing like the contenders that we expected them to be coming into the season. They've won now 8 of their last 10 games. They've won 3 in a row, 2 straight blowout victories at home to albeit shorthanded teams, but teams that had some star players playing, and they handled business and destroyed those teams that were missing some of their star players. That's what you want to see a good team do, and the Knicks aren't even fully healthy as it is with their own. So it's good to see what they're doing right now, and I've really just been rolling lately. A lot of good players have been playing well. Last night against Orlando, they were up by 37 at one point in the game. Pretty much every Knicks player played well. We're going to just dive right into it, talk about some of these things. So Davin, first off, tell me how you've been doing, and secondly, what have been some of your biggest takeaways from this recent stretch by the Knicks, because they've been playing really good basketball lately.
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. It's an honor to be back. Thank you for asking as well. And to be quite honest, it's just a pleasure to see some championship-level basketball that we all know that they could be. You know what I mean? I think we've seen that the best is yet to come as far as defense goes. But offensively, these guys are a well-oiled machine. One of the best in the league, the best offense in the league. Mark my words. And then they've won three. They won three in the last. They've won 3 in a row, and they won 4 of their last 5. So the Knicks are really getting to a groove now where it's really just about, staying in cohesion, making the right plays. I think having a high assist number, we'll talk more about that, and how players are really impacting themselves right now. For example, Mikal Bridges really turning things around, 18 points a game over the last 5. And Charlotte, he only had 8 points, but beyond that, he's averaging 21 points per game in those 4 games outside of Charlotte. But, yeah, he's looking phenomenal right now, looking like he's back in his groove, and it's really exciting to see the Knicks playing great basketball.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really want to highlight from yesterday's game, obviously the Knicks shot very good against Orlando, 50% from the floor, 42.9% from 3. They were perfect from the free throw line. Perfect. 20 for 20 from the free throw line. That is something that I think is a really big thing for the Knicks, because we know in years past, and even a couple times this season, free throws have haunted the Knicks. They really have. I mean, I think that comes with the luxury of having Karl-Anthony Towns now on this team. You have a center that can shoot free throws. You have a center that can, knock down the clutch free throws when you need it to. You have all the options around that can hit free throws, and that's huge. This team hasn't exactly always done their part at drawing fouls, because like Mikal Bridges, for example, is barely making it to the line. Meanwhile, Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns are almost only getting to the line. So it's kind of weird how the combination of that is working, but it seems to be working. And aside from the free throws too, the offense has been a juggernaut. I mean, look at the Denver Nuggets game, for example. They put up 145 points against Denver, who was healthy, by the way. Yes, they were missing Aaron Gordon, but Aaron Gordon is not making that much of a difference. He's not. They still had Nikola Jokic, and they still had Jamal Murray. They still had Michael Porter Jr., Christian Brown, all those guys. They were fully healthy, and the Knicks manhandled them on the road, on their floor. Manhandled them. One of the greatest offensive performances I think I've ever seen this team have. And I didn't think that was exactly going to be sustainable, because then the next game they put up, they kind of put up a stinker against Dallas, and then they only scored 99 against Charlotte, so it kind of looked like that it was just going to be like, oh, that game was a flash in the pan. But then the last 2 games here at home against New Orleans and then Orlando, back to the offensive brilliance. They scored at a high rate, at an efficient rate. They are now the number 1 offense in the NBA, right now on pace to be one of the greatest offenses in NBA history, which... Now, I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to end up being the greatest offense in league history. It's way too early for me to be, putting that proclamation out there. But this team has the capability to do that. I mean, all 5 starters are averaging at least 13 points per game. Even Josh Hart, a guy that we weren't expecting to really score at all. He had a triple-double last night against Orlando. 11 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. His second triple-double of the season. His 7th triple-double as a Knick, which already puts him 5th in franchise history, which is really remarkable considering he's only been here for about a year and a half now. So... really, really impressed with what Josh Hart's been doing. But one more guy that I want to touch on before I pass it off to you is Mikal Bridges, because this is a guy that I was heavily criticizing, just a few days ago when he put up that really bad game against the Charlotte Hornets, and he had that awful game against the Utah Jazz as well. Those are 2 games that right there he really should have went off in, because those are 2 opponents that the Knicks should have manhandled. I mean, the fact that they lost to the Jazz and were in a dogfight with the Hornets, yet they blew out the Suns, Nuggets, and Magic is like... what is going on with this team? It's kind of weird, right? But regardless of that, Mikal Bridges the last two games has looked more like the Mikal Bridges we have been wanting to see. A brilliant 30-point outing with 7 3-pointers made against the New Orleans Pelicans. Yes, I know that they were very shorthanded, missing like several key players. No Brandon Ingram, no Zion Williamson, no Jose Alvarado, no Herb Jones, all those guys, right? I understand. But you still want to see this team, and you want to see the players on this team go off against these teams that are shorthanded. That's what a good team does. A good team takes care of business against these teams that are shorthanded or just bad teams, right? That's what they're supposed to do. Last night against Orlando, same thing. Bridges last night, 19 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, pretty efficient night, 8 of 13 from the floor, a plus 33, which was a team high. A plus 33 for Mikal Bridges. And that comes right after he was a minus 14 in a 1-point win against Charlotte. A minus 14 in a win. I mean, that's bad. That should just tell you right there how poor of a performance he was having in that one game against Charlotte. But now when you look at these other games, he's been playing so much better. I'm really excited for what he's got going forward. We got a game against Charlotte again on Thursday, tomorrow night, so Bridges has an opportunity to bounce back against the team that kind of shut him down. He has an opportunity to do it. I think he will bounce back. I'm looking forward to it. There are more and more guys I want to discuss, but I want to pass it off to you before I go ahead and do that.
No, yeah, man. Honestly, Mikal Bridges highlighted the whole entire winning streak right now. 3 games it is, but at the same time, the way he's been playing has just been prolific. But the Knicks are the whole entire unit. 6th in points per game, 2nd in field goal percentage, 2nd in three-point percentage. Like you talked about field goal, free throws. They're 1st in free throws at the moment, while being top 10 in assists. This offense hasn't even peaked yet, in my opinion, and it's only finding its groove with the way Mikal Bridges has been playing lately. It seems like everyone's kind of found their niche, and then there comes Mikal at the end. It's exactly what we need. We have big men on the way back, and like I said, we've seen the best is yet to come for the Knicks, but the players are making it happen. Karl-Anthony Towns, this guy should be in MVP conversations, in my opinion. Karl-Anthony Towns is playing that good, 25 points per game, leading the league, 13 rebounds a game, while also putting up insane stat lines. We saw 46 versus Chicago. That wasn't a loss, but they were 26 and 15 in Brooklyn, 34 and 10 versus the Suns, 30 and 15 versus Denver. That game against Denver where they blew the guys out, he shot 80% from the field. So it's like these guys are not only winning the games they're supposed to win, they're dominating games as well. Of course, there was that tough loss to the Utah Jazz. We're not going to talk about that too much. But beyond that, these guys are taking care of business on the road as well as at home. And I really can't have much to say. The only thing about them right now is sustainability. And that's what it's all about, in my opinion, sustaining. And how do they approach sustaining this offense? Keeping the ball moving, executing in transition so you won't get trapped in the half court. We know the Knicks have one of the slowest paces, if not the slowest pace in the league. But when you're playing active on defense, you have active hands. Karl-Anthony Towns, even the last game, getting a couple of blocks, really setting the tone for the defense. That's kind of what we got to play like. We got to play downhill. We have to get out there and play to our strengths because, to be honest with you, this team, if they're playing well in transition and good on defense, they can't be stopped. There's nothing stopping these guys. In transition, there's nothing stopping it. 3-on-1 with Towns, Brunson, and Bridges, or Anunoby, whoever it may be. You just can't stop it. We saw it many times last night. These guys are against the corner. OG Anunoby's taking assists from Mikal Bridges, corner threes, a step back. It was crazy. I was like, this guy OG, talk about how good he's been. We'll think about to get to that here soon. But yeah, sustaining offense, keeping the ball moving, having a high assist clip, things of this nature are things that I think the Knicks have to lock in on to really put themselves on another level, an upper tier as far as championship contenders go, because we're slowly but surely getting there. Like I said, we need a good stretch, five-game winning streak, maybe 7-game winning streak for me to start really putting things in that perspective as far as championship caliber teams. But as far as the teams going as a whole, these guys are looking phenomenal right now, and we know Achua's coming back soon. We know Mr. Robbins is going to be back here by 2025, maybe after Christmas, and that's exciting news to have. We really going to need these guys. But the personnel, yeah, Josh Hart talked about him. Josh Hart, first Knick in 40 years to have multiple triple-doubles on 60% from the field, and currently he is leading the highest field goal percentage inside of 5 feet. That doesn't even make sense in my opinion. This guy is 6'4", put up a triple-double last night, and has the highest field goal percentage inside the paint, higher than Wembanyama, higher than Jared Allen. These are names I'm talking about, and Josh Hart is leading the charge right now. So is he going to sustain that as far as sustainability goes? I don't know, but at the same time, hell of impressive through 20 games. And that's really what it's all about. You guys are playing tenacious. They have the right mindset. They're being cohesive with each other. They're making sure, because like when Josh Hart came with the quote to Mikal Bridges saying, we're going to get this guy going. We know his body of work. Don't worry about him. He's going to get going. And then the next game, they're actually dedicating that game to getting Mikal Bridges going, getting him open looks, finding him in transition for easy buckets, easy cuts to the lane. Jalen Brunson finding him multiple times. So stuff like that, these guys are really playing for each other. And I really have nothing else to say besides the fact that Tibbs has got a well-oiled machine on his hands. And let's see how far he rolls with it. It's going to be great.
Right, and one thing I want to talk about really, I think at this point we know this offense is potent, right? They have so many different options. Bridges finally is getting going now, which I think makes a huge difference in the offense. I think OG Anunoby taking a leap as well is also making a big difference. But of course, I think we expected Brunson and Towns to be as prolific as they are right now offensively. So I think at this point, the one thing that really can elevate this team to being a true title contender, I think right now they're actually playing like contenders. I think they are. But I think if they really want to be like that true finals contender, a team that everyone can actually take serious, they just need to improve defensively. And I think the last two games, they have done exactly that. They held the Pelicans to 85 points, and they only made, I think, 4 3-pointers against them in that game. And then last night against Orlando, Orlando had 106 points, but they held them to like 69 through three quarters. That I'm not going to look at that fourth quarter because they were up by so much at that point. I didn't even care how many points the Magic put up. It wasn't going to be enough for them to win the game. The one thing that stood out to me was that the Knicks were forcing turnovers and scoring off those turnovers. They forced 15 Orlando turnovers and scored 32 points off those turnovers. That's huge. I mean, getting out in transition and, hitting the shots that you're supposed to make in transition, getting those turnovers and then making those shots, that goes a long way for both your offense and your defense. It really does. I mean, when you have guys like OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges being pests out there on defense, getting active, in passing lanes or swiping the ball away from ball handlers, that makes such a huge difference. It opens up the offense and the defense for everybody. I personally think that turning good defense into offense is the key to being a successful unit on both ends of the floor. I really do. I mean, that's what good teams do. Look at the Boston Celtics. They are great defensively, and that's why they're so good offensively. Teams can never get set against them because they're so good on the defensive side that they're just running and gunning it. That's what you do. When you're giving up buckets, you're giving teams confidence, you're giving them too much, energy, you're letting them hang around a bit as well, letting them get set on defense, all that stuff. And that's when your offense will start to struggle. I mean, we saw the Knicks when they were facing Dallas. The Dallas Mavericks were switching on everything, and they were making all their shots, and the Knicks offense was sluggish. They couldn't score, couldn't get any open looks, were missing everything. Yes, part of the reason Dallas was scoring so much was because they were hitting some just ridiculously tough shots. At that point, you just got to tip your cap to them and say, like, oh, there's nothing more I can do about that. But aside from that, when you're not playing as good defensively, it's going to hurt you offensively because now you're allowing teams to get set and you're allowing them to play with confidence. And that's really where it comes down to for this Knicks team at this point. Where can they improve defensively? Because I think really at this point, we know what this team is capable of defensively. We're missing two of our best defenders, to be honest with you. Yes, we have Anunoby and Bridges here, but we're missing Achua and Robinson, who are supposed to provide the anchors down low. They're supposed to provide that, while Bridges and Anunoby are supposed to provide the perimeter defense, which I think they have been doing. Yes, I know Bridges, we've kind of criticized his defense a little bit, but the numbers will also tell you that he's been a pretty good defender this year. So it's kind of a mixed bag with him. Anunoby, we know he's been excellent defensively. I'm not, worried about him in the slightest. Even when he's having a bad night offensively, he's providing so much on the defensive end of the floor that you don't even notice he's having a bad night offensively. Unless, of course, it's like that Mavericks game where he was like 0 for 11 or something like that. When you have a night like that, yeah, it's just not your night. It happens. I wasn't too worried about that game because I knew that wasn't going to happen every single night. He had just dropped 40 against Denver the game before that, so we know OG is capable of being a good offensive player. Bad nights are going to happen, bad stretches are going to happen, but it wasn't affecting the Knicks' winning because he was playing good defensively. It makes such a huge difference if you're good on that end of the floor. The Knicks, like I said, they have the top offensive rating in the league, but are like top 18, top 19 in defensive rating. That's not going to cut it. Yes, the Knicks are a good team right now, 13-8. They've won 8 of 10. But if you want to be a fantastic team, you want to be a team that can win a championship, you got to get the defense back to like the top 10 range or at least at like top 13 or 12. You got to get it there. We saw the Knicks last year were top 10 in both offense and defense, and that's why they were so good. That's why despite all the injuries, they were able to make it to the second round, make it to Game 7, one game shy of an Eastern Conference Finals, all that stuff, right? So really, that's what it comes down to, in my opinion. I don't have much else to say about this stretch because, they've been winning so easily lately. I mean, it seems like when they win big, when they win, I should say, they win big. They don't just win by like these nail biters. Like the Hornets game is an exception. I don't know why that game was a nail biter. It really shouldn't have been. I think every single player will tell you that as well, just because They were missing LaMelo Ball and missing all these guys. It was literally Brandon Miller and friends out there. So I don't really understand how that game was a nail-biter, but they have an opportunity tomorrow night to kind of just bounce back from that and really show them what they should have done to them last week. So we'll see what happens with that. But I don't have much else to say about this stretch because it's just been a lot more consistency, which is what I've been begging for all season long so far. Most of you guys know I've been saying that they need to find some consistency. They need it, and they finally have seemed to find it. They have now at this point, and I hope it continues. Yes, there's going to be nights where they're off, but I want this kind of basketball to continue for them. I don't have much else to say, though. I want to give you an opportunity to get your final thoughts out on this stretch before we wrap the episode up.
Yeah, before we close it up here, I just want to shout out, like you said, consistency, sustainability. Mikal Bridges playing the way he's playing has really risen the ceiling for this team exponentially. I think this guy, consistency that he plays in will be just fine as he stays in this paradigm he's in right now. We'll be all right. But currently, Mikal Bridges, the first Knick in the past to have a plus 70 over 2-game span, which is kind of interesting to think about. You think someone else would have done that? Josh Hart had a close to that a season ago, but right now Mikal Bridges is the first player since Jason Tatum in 2022, Stephen Curry in 2016, and Kobe Bryant in 2003 to have a plus 70 plus minus in 2 games. Now, those are names that are in insane. He's insane company right now. That's
company,
kind of crazy to say. He's not going to say, you know what I mean? That tier of player is a type of player at the same time. This team is so talented. That's all I have to say about that. This team is that talented. That's why things like that tend to pop up, this talent level this team has. You have good teammates around you. You're playing the right kind of basketball. You're mentally prepared. Because games like the Hornets and the Jazz, those are games where when you look at their free throws, they're not shooting too well. And stuff like that leads all the way back to the mental. You guys aren't out there in cohesion. You're not out there mentally prepared for this game. You kind of just thought you were going to cakewalk through it, and these guys actually came to play. And you have to understand that this is the NBA, and that's just what it is. A lot of high-level players, a lot of high-level egos, thinking sometimes the game might be easier than they anticipated being, and that's just what it is. But other than that, man, the Knicks looking phenomenal. On the winning streak right now, continue it. If you've seen their schedule in December, I think the championship conversation will be here sooner than later. That's what I will say about that.
Yeah, I mean, they have a pretty easy schedule in December. And, I think the biggest tests are yet to come for them. They only played the Celtics once this season, and they got demolished by them, so you have to respond to them when you face them later on in the season. You have the San Antonio Spurs on Christmas Day, and the Spurs have been looking pretty decent this year. Wembanyama and Chris Paul have been a pretty good duo, which I think a lot of people could have expected, but, they're playing very well, so that's going to be a test right there as well. The best is yet to come for this team. I think a lot of us were, clamoring about their chemistry when they had a couple good games early in the season. Now we're 21 games into the season. They're not even at the peak chemistry yet, but we're starting to really see them kind of mold together and really get it going. This is kind of like the bonding year for the Knicks, if you will. And when I say that, I more so mean the goal is to make the championship and all that stuff, win it all this year. But you have a window. You're going to have this team for the next 3 to 4 years. So it's not exactly a failure if you don't make it there this year. Yeah, you want to make the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that should at least be the floor for this team. Make the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that's where you need to be. You were in the second round the past 2 seasons. Now you upgraded the roster. So now you got to upgrade your standards and get to the Eastern Conference Finals. If you make it there, then you're on the right track. You've hit the next step, and now you can look forward to really building more chemistry as the time goes on, adding more pieces, because the Knicks can still add more pieces. Yes, they're very close to the second apron, but they can still add. They still can. They can even move off of Mitchell Robinson's contract if they choose to do that. Those are discussions we can have closer to the trade deadline because we're not quite there just yet. But regardless of that, I think the best is yet to come for this team. I think they really have a lot of potential. I think we're starting to finally see it in its fullest form because we're seeing this team kind of just do what they did last year following the Anunoby trade, where they were just blowing teams out left and right. You got fans of other teams that were finally paying attention to them and going, hey, look at these guys. They're just blowing them out. They're just destroying them on both ends of the floor. That's really what it comes down to. I really want to see the Knicks continue to do that, of course. I think everyone will agree with me on that. I know it's not going to happen every single night. There's going to be nights where we can't shoot or we can't defend. There's going to be nights where we're playing nail-biters. There's going to be games where we lose to an opponent that we should not lose to. It happens. It's part of a long basketball season. But right now, I'm really pleased with what the New York Knicks have been doing. I'm pleased with how the guys have been playing together. I think we're really seeing a great brand of team basketball from these guys, and I'm looking forward to it. That's really all I got to say, though, so I do think this is a good place to wrap the episode up. We really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let us know what you think about this recent stretch from the Knicks in the comment section below, because there's a lot we can talk about with that, but we don't want to take up too much airtime, so we're just going to stop it right here. You can follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course this YouTube page that you were watching the video on. You can follow our personal Twitter accounts. They are right there above our heads, and we will see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out.